Good evening. It's the post-election edition of the Facebook Report with James the Boozy Pundit. This is episode 9. Stop the count! Oh no! Stop the count! By the way, the beer of this episode is... It's still time for pumpkin. Harpoon Dunkin' Pumpkin. Recently acquired, I think, Dunkin' Brands was publicly traded. Buffalo Wild Wings and some other concerns are buying Dunkin', which is kind of cool. So yay Dunkin' and yay Harpoon. But before I left, I happened to post a few things. Just kind of going nuts about that. We hadn't even seen the Trump tweet at that point, but just from my somewhat clear-eyed observation of what's happening, I was thinking, well, gee, this seems like an overreaction. So here's the post. I said, when people talk about, quote, stopping the count, that really means pausing the count to straighten something out or settle an issue. I'm seeing overreactions to stopping the count as if it means the count is stopped and the uncounted ballots are thrown in the garbage. This seemed to cause all kinds of outrage and controversy, which wasn't really my point, but, it's always, eventually this happens. So this particular post has 186 comments as of now, which is, not crazy, but for today, that's the biggest. People, oh, you're embarrassing yourself, kind of angry. Trump did a 3-word tweet. Stop the count. So, it's the usual Trump thing. It's sort of in the mind of the beholder somehow, a little bit. You can either overreact to that as if it's the craziest thing you've ever heard, or kind of brush it off. It's just Trump. Thankfully, by the end of this argument on my way home, I was listening to NPR's All Things Considered, and they had a much more even-handed interpretation than some of the interpretations the outraged interpretation is. He's saying stop all voting and discard votes that aren't counted or something. That's not what he's saying. Or even if he's saying that, he's wrong. Responsible people in the campaign aren't saying that. Pam Bondi and Corey Lewandowski are actually having press conferences on the ground in Pennsylvania, and if you bother to watch those, you'll see what they're actually talking about. Stop the count is shorthand for pause the count so we can get observers in there. And as Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal pointed out, it means one of two things. Stop the count until observers are in there, because there needs to be a bipartisan situation where people are watching from both sides. So stop the count, or don't count ballots that arrived after the deadline. But then you have Trump supporters out there screaming, stop the count, and others are saying, keep the count going, or the opposite. Everyone's, they're saying opposite things. The way media and social media is, it's the hype machine. Everyone's going to get worked up about something. So literally people were marching in the streets, don't stop the count. It's all very, very silly, kind of. The count is going to continue, and they're saying stop the count for certain reasons, but of course Trump's not going to waste time in his world, or he's not sophisticated enough to it just doesn't, that's not Trump's brand. He doesn't say stop the count for particular reasons, the following, which are... No, he just does bullet points. And so it's your job to not overreact. Now, NPR, thankfully, has reported, yes, they said, welcome to All Things Considered. Trump tweeted, stop the count. In the next sentence, essentially, which refers to the campaign's effort to pause the count while they get observers in, and something. So I was like, oh my God, thank God NPR isn't feeding into this hysteria that everyone seems to want to. Everyone gets very attached to certain narratives. I say, nope, that's not what they meant. No, we're so married to this idea of stop the count meaning something very bad. Which is just, that's not an intellectually honest or really terribly responsible take on things. Now, I know Trump is the president and he says wacky things. This has been 4 years of this. You would think we would kind of have dealt with this. As I said, this is well-tilled ground. Trump says something, and it's not like U.S. policy. It's not even really necessarily that important. It's sort of designed to push buttons, right? That's what it's designed to do most of the time. Or it's designed to get his maniac supporters out there. And yeah, there was apparently people chanting, "Stop the count." Now, did those people know what the fuck they were talking about? I don't think so, but they're just sort of automatons following marching orders. Stop the count. If you just stopped one of them to ask what that meant, yes, stop all counts, and I don't even think those people said, yes, all counting of legitimate ballots should be stopped, and then throw everything else in the garbage. I thought I set up enough of a ridiculous straw man that people wouldn't really buy into that's what Trump was suggesting, but we had a lot of people suggesting that. But by the time NPR came around on the way back from my long drive, at the end of the thread, I said, "Well, and NPR just said they gave a more clear-eyed interpretation. It's not an unintentionally inflammatory, irresponsible, hyped up interpretation." And news media organizations and everyone it's a skill set that I said I won't miss. The skill set to interpret Trump speak, whether it be in tweets or, good people on both, fine people on both sides. There's been endless things that need to be cleaned up, or even, like, if you're trying to be fair to the situation and not hype it up the wrong way, even then it's a mess. So I will not miss that. I won't miss having it fall to me to try to be the one to say, well, no, here's what's really happening, or kind of here's what he means, or kind of don't believe what he says. And people are like, well, he's the president. Well, yes, this has been happening for 4 years now. He says wildly irresponsible things on Twitter, and people designed to push buttons, or I don't know what he's doing. Just because the whole debate on that one thread became about interpreting Trump's posts, Trump's tweets, and why kind of it's annoying to have to do that. I'm willing to concede that it's terrible to have to do this, and I truly look forward to not having to do this ever again. If whoever is in charge next, or ever anywhere, it'll be nice to turn the page on having to essentially clean up on aisle 3 what the latest Trump faux outrage. Trump's not helping. You got Trump's people out there. I mean, it's a mess, but someone has to kind of be the eye of the storm. Like, wait a minute, you guys are overreacting, and his fans are nuts. But kind of over here in Sanity World, thankfully NPR agreed. Okay, kind of what he means is, or kind of ha ha ha, we know not to take that seriously. Are people unfamiliar with the concept of not taking Trump seriously? He declared that he won the entire fucking election on election night. Somehow people were able to discard that. I won everything. Everyone's like, ha, yeah, good one, buddy. Well, that's how you should take a lot of this stuff. Basically. Or, don't have that skill set, then sort of lose it. All of a sudden you have no ability to take things with a grain of salt if you are wedded to the need to get outraged. Rewind the outrage and calm down, maybe. Or not, whatever. Like I said, people were like, oh, you're embarrassing yourself, or this is sad. I said, yeah, unnecessary hysteria is often sad. And that's what this is. There's no need to take to the streets or freak out about stop the count. That's very dumb. Stop the count is what he probably heard someone say that in the room, Well, we have to stop the count until, something. He doesn't follow in that terms, but stop the count. That's the bullet point that goes out, and different precincts react in different ways, and a whole storm erupts. and then one or two of us have to come in and clean up what was actually meant. But the GOP has not asked. Never anyone credible in the campaign was ever asking to permanently stop the count and not ever resume legal counting. That's intellectually dishonest to take that interpretation ultimately. I mean, my example early on was, when they say stop the presses, that means there's a problem to be fixed and then press resumes. Stop doesn't mean permanently, automatically, unless you're looking to, take it the wrong way. Stop the presses, stop the count, there's a problem. That's how I took it. But I guess I have a charitable view, I suppose. And, I'm good at cleaning up on aisle 3. Let's suffice it to say, my last thought is, I'm looking forward to not having to do this kind of stuff again, and I'm looking forward to unity, man. I'm looking forward to coming together in kind of a new era. I think I'm looking past the Trump era right now. I think Trump is going to lose. He's going to go kicking and screaming. We didn't think any otherwise. They're gonna. It's like as I said on a thread somewhere, it's like a death row inmate. He's gonna exhaust all of his legal avenues, and then eventually, it's over. It's not gonna happen. Okay, so if I was a Biden fan right now, I would be celebrating. If I was a full-on Biden supporter, as a lot of people, I would be cracking champagne right now. I would be so happy. Now, as someone who's kind of in the middle, quasi-Trump fan, I guess, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a Trump fan, but, I guess I play one on TV or something. In people's minds, for a lot of people, I'm the biggest pro-Trump person they know, probably. I have family members, other people. People are very upset that this is going down like this. And Trump did really well, considering all that was up against him. But kind of don't get me started. But once we turn this page, let's just turn the page, because there's a chance here to get some real unity. I actually, for once, see it should have occurred to me years ago that this could. And Biden is, he is a placeholder essentially. No offense, but so it's up to us, right? And we can build bridges of understanding on a local level, on Facebook, on social media. And not be so hateful, not be so systematically undermining, and not just hate each other. We need much more sort of across the aisle cooperation for various reasons. And things are so. Once Trump rides off into the sunset, I'm really hoping that we can turn the page and enter a new era. I'm very excited to see what happens. Anyway, thank you for watching. And have a good evening.